And we are live. I think we are live. Hey guys, this is Shirley Husar. You are watching Shirley's World. And it is official. Brett Kavanaugh is now our new Supreme Court judge. He has been confirmed and sworn in. No, those libtards can't handle that one because he went straight to the point. He got confirmed and he got sworn in on the same day. T, we got feedback coming from you. He got confirmed and sworn in, and now we are moving forward. President Trump right now is out there on the campaign train for the other type of candidates who are running for office. So I'm just going to make some double checks on some things as I talk to you guys to make sure that we are live. This is Shirley Husar. You're watching Shirley's World. For those who've supported me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, and those who are my super chatters and supporters, thank you so much. You mean a lot to me. We will be at Politicon. We will be at Politicon, October the 20th and the 21st. So it's very important that if you're in the LA basin area, come on out. Come on out to Politicon. We're going to talk about marijuana. I've got some friends talking about how African-American people are making money selling marijuana legally. That's going to be interesting. T. West is going to be there. We're going to talk about gentrification. We're going to talk about trade schools, cash flow, OPM, other people's money. We'll be talking about white supremacists. Phil from the Advice Show. God bless Phil and all that's going on his channel. But I want to talk about today, the Supreme Court Judge Kavanaugh has been confirmed. Judge Kavanaugh, I told you it's going to happen. I've been saying this for the longest. Brett Kavanaugh will be confirmed. They may say, oh, it was by the squeakiest of margins, Shirley. He barely made it through. Doesn't matter. He got in. Just like a basketball game. It only takes one basket to win a game. And that basket was for Brett Kavanaugh. 50-48. Two of the senators did not show up for various reasons. T. West will share with that. We got T. West from Afro Synergy in the house. T. West is out there. He's going to be talking about that. But I want you to realize that this was a united front from the MAGA and the Republicans. This was a Republican, Rhino, and Trump train movement to get this man confirmed. He'd worked with the Bush administration. He had worked with Condoleezza Rice. That chocolate sister came on out saying this is a good man. He's a family man. He's a man about justice and law. He came on out, and she supported him, and now he is confirmed. T, we're excited. This is historical right now. This is a historical era of conservatism. How do you think this is going to affect the rest of the country, and what's your take on the matter?
Well, it's going to have some good effects. It's going to have some negative effects. There are lots of people who are very angry about it, and there are lots of people who are very happy about it. So I don't think it's going to change that. I'm sure it's not going to change that aspect of it, but it will have some effects eventually on some of the Supreme Court rulings. And we don't get a lot of Supreme Court rulings anyway, but it will have some effects on some of those things. And that's why some people are very angry. That is also why some people are very, very happy. But we have to realize that Justice Brett Kavanaugh, he's only one of 9 justices on that Supreme Court. So he cannot rule on anything himself alone. So I think sometimes, I think a lot of people are over exaggerating about how much effect his presence will have on that court. I mean, he's a newbie. The others have been there for a little while. Some of them are the last 2 females and the last male who was appointed also. They're relatively new. They've been the last two females, they've been there for a few years, but the last male, he's just been there, for maybe a year or so.
Yeah, since Trump is in office.
Yeah.
This is the second one because see, they blocked Obama from trying to put one under the last hub before he got out. Thank you, Jesus. And now Obama's gone, so now we can move forward. Hey, Michelle, thank you, Doug, for moderating. And God bless Doug. He came on board. Queen, hello, Diva. Elle's out there. Eric's out there. And Herb. Herb was the first one to say hello. Herb, I saw you waiting out there for me. I love you. Now, what does this really mean? Let's kind of break this down. I want to talk about how this affects Black people. A lot of Black people say, I don't mean, what does it mean? What does affect me? When we talk about in urban game changers, local, state, and federal, holding elected officials accountable as well as ourselves. If we don't hold these people accountable, it affects our lives. Many of you African-American people out there, my brown chocolate sisters, the strong, empowering people out there, you have to identify the fact that you have American Blacks who are being suppressed by a judicial system that targets our people. Because you didn't pay attention to who got voted in as far as the judges on the local level. You didn't pay attention to how the judges are ruling on the state level. But you were all in arms about a Supreme Court level judge when you should have been paying attention to the 3 strikes you're out law. You should have been paying attention to how Pookie was selling a little dime of weed and now he got 4 or 5 years in prison and it kept getting worse because he was doing wrong in prison, which extended Pookie's time frame. That is what you should have been paying attention to, but you didn't. But as soon as the libtards and the liberal progressives and the media wants to propel their ideologies before you, you are a bandwagon rider, my brothers and sisters. You don't think for yourself. You're not proactive, you're reactive. So let me talk to the reactive people who are going to react off the fact that not only was he confirmed, doggone it, he's already been sworn in. Yes, bitches, he's been sworn in. He is now judge. Let's keep the train on moving. Let's keep this country moving the way it should. But what we gonna get out of this? There's an assessment of understanding where you should be in your placement in government. Meeting Black people. What do you mean I got a place in government? You got a place in government because you have a vote. What changes the plight of America is through money and numbers. The money and the numbers is what changes the plight of America. But if you are not conscious of how that money and number affects you, your children, your grandchildren, and so forth, the governmental programs, the ideologies, you're going to be lost in the midst of the wonderland of the Trump train. So Kavanaugh has now been elected. We have other Supreme Court judges on the panel. We now have 9. Who are these people who are going to be affected on this panel? Who are these liberal judges who didn't want Kavanaugh, but now they've got him? How are they going to have to deal with him? And what are the histories of them? Well, I want T to tell you a little bit of history that I learned from him. And that is Ruth Ginsburg was an ACLU attorney before she was a Supreme Court judge. The ACLU is an active group of attorneys that comprised of people who in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s, and even partly in the 80s, did good and bad for Black people. They did things to rake up civil rights and build civil rights. They built it up, they broke it down, and they spread it out. And now we're going to show you and tell you how that affected Black Americans, how African Americans and the civil rights movement and the ACLU with a judge and other judges who are affected and paid probably under the table from the Supreme Court judge level has affected the fabric of America. The ACLU at one point was fighting for equal rights, civil rights for Black people. Civil rights was created by Black people. T. West is going to share with you the 13th, the 14th, 15th Amendment and how the millennials, many of y'all don't know this, many of you guys are just emotionally revved up for this ruling, and I want to calm you down. I want to calm you down because if you knew data, facts, and the truth, you would think twice about what is happening. It is actually a good thing for Black people. It's a good thing because the liberals and their progressiveness of free love to all these other people versus us is starting to be corrupted and corroded and ending. Because that free love for all colored people has basically set us on the back burner, on the back door, on the sideline, and forgotten. That free love of money and programs and product that the ACLU has protruded and pushed forward. So T, let's go back. Tell them a little bit about ACLU. Tell the audience, tell the family, because I want the family, I need you to stay with me. Let's get the likes up. We got 30 people watching. This is, on my show, I don't have the numbers some of the other people do, but I appreciate the quality of the people that watch me. Because you know you're not going to get a bunch of bullshit. We're going to talk about dicks and pussies and all the other stuff. And I ain't down at all. I'm not down on those because I watch those shows and Blackism. I think everyone adds value to the conscious movement thought plan to the table. But this is a serious matter with judges that are incarcerating Black men, judges that are voting and having us have more empowerment given to police brutality. Come on now, listen to me. Judges and legislators and lawmakers and lobbyists who have put these agendas on the table, and we have said nothing. We have just gone to protocol. Al's out there, Doug's out there. Thank you again, Doug, so much. Now now the Democrats are actually listening. And you know, Pacha, I don't know if they're actually listening. I'm thinking that they're more conscious, that we are serious about our plight right now. Doug said out there, the USMCA, you might want to share a little bit your opinion on them. What's your point on that? And those people, because see, what we're learning, my people and my brothers and sisters, is that the judge rulings from local, state to federal could change the plight of Black America. And if the plight of Black America could be more conservative, could be fair in its rulings from a top Supreme Court level, what better can it do for African American people on a local level? But I bet you guys can't tell me who the judges are in your state. I bet you can say Brett Kavanaugh if you know who that is. You know who Camilla Harris is. And you better know who Shirley Husar is and T. West is and Urban Game Changers for sure. But I want to ask you, do you know the judges that have been affecting and pushing laws and incarcerating your brothers and sisters in Chicago, Detroit, and Atlanta, California? I want to know that. Do you know the police officer, when you have issues, do you know how to ask for the watch commander? And did you realize half the police force is full of illegal immigrant anchor babies? That means that their parents are illegals, but they're police officers that run your states and communities in your cities. That's the problem we have in California. But I want you to understand, I'm going back to the ACLU. I want you to explain. I want you to listen. I know many of you guys are just going to be sitting there pondering, saying, what are you talking about? The Supreme Court affects the state court, affects the local court, that affects the Black community. How did it start? It started on the grassroots with the ACLU and what they did and how we are. T, why don't you share about the 13th, 14th Amendment? Ruth Ginsburg, who was a ACLU attorney, tell the family how that affects them then and how it affects us now.
Yeah, it is true, Shirley, that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was an ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union lawyer before she became justice on the Supreme Court. So some of her opinions and all are going to be reflective of that fact and of that reality. Good or bad, it's going to be that. That is what it is. She is who she is. So that's Ginsburg. Now, with regards to the 13th and the 14th Amendment, many of you probably heard about what Kanye West said recently about the 13th Amendment. He initially said that it should be abolished. Okay, and most of you probably didn't even know what the 13th Amendment was, and that's okay too, but now you probably do. The 13th Amendment related to it was related to slavery, and it was about the abolishing of slavery here in the United States of America, where this country, the government institutions, the private enterprise, they had a system of involuntary servitude, perpetual servitude in the form of chattel slavery. Chattel slavery not being like indentured servitude, chattel slavery being something that you're born into, and when you die, you're still a slave, and your children, when they're born, they will be a slave. So the 13th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution abolished that slavery. So Kanye West came out initially and he said that we should abolish the 13th Amendment. Well, he had to clarify that. He came back later and he clarified, what he meant. Now, some use the term the slavery being on the plantation, being on the Democrat plantation, where over 95% of blacks generally, and this has been ever since the 1960s, the late 1960s, blacks have predominantly always voted for Democrats. And prior to that, that wasn't the case. The little voting rights that they did have prior to the 1960s, they generally would vote for Republicans. But that changed when Lyndon B. Johnson became president after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And Lyndon B. Johnson came out with the social programs. For the first time, blacks were allowed to be on welfare, at least the black females with children. They were allowed to be on welfare. And pale-skinned Americans, they had always been able to get welfare, and that's regardless of whether the male was at home or not. But when they provided welfare for blacks, the stipulation was that that black male could not be in that house, even if that black male lost his job, wasn't able to work, or was handicapped. That was a stipulation by the system of whiteism, which was a racist system. So with the 13th Amendment, the abolishing of slavery, Kanye West says, okay, get rid of the 13th, let's abolish the 13th Amendment. Okay, what he was basically trying to say was, black folk, y'all need to come off the plantation. Y'all need to get rid of that slave mentality that the Democratic Party has been working, mesmerizing you with. You need to come out of that mindset. So that was the other meaning of it, because we know that with slavery was a very, very bad thing. So you had that in the 13th Amendment, the abolishing of slavery. Then after the 13th Amendment, you had another amendment, that was the 14th Amendment. And the 14th Amendment entailed that one part of it was that any of the children who are born of parents, of black parents, black children are free, and they are also citizens in the United States of America. Now, what the ACLU, many of these slick lawyers, fast-talking, silver-tongued foxes, what they did, they twisted that, and they turned it into, at least in the mindset, the perception of the people, of the population, that also meant children born of immigrants. And nowhere in the 14th Amendment does it say anything about illegal immigrants, children. Nowhere. It was only these children who were born of people who had been enslaved in the United States of America, and who had been, under the 13th Amendment, freed from that bondage. Okay, and it made slavery illegal, except for, part of the 13th Amendment also, except for in the case of if a person is convicted of a crime and they go to prison. Then some of these slave rules or laws could technically kick in. So to the young brothers, young sisters out there, and your old brothers too, avoid the penal system. Do the right thing. Avoid the penal system. Think before you do. Think before you act. And always use your head. You know, that's this head up here. Always use this head. Always be thinking. So we had the slavery. We had the birth. And then, as I said, ACLU and other lawyers, they twisted it. And then you had what became known as anchor babies. And then eventually you had DACA. Okay, all of this relates to illegal immigration into the United States, enabling them in the United States. And then what we call it sabotage. That's because that's what it was, because you had also affirmative action. Well, that's one thing that the Supreme Court has had rulings on in the past, were things related to affirmative action. Now, affirmative action, since its very inception. Now, some of the original creators of affirmative action will tell you, well, it was to rectify, to bring some form of restitution to African Americans for all the hundreds of years of slavery and Jim Crow and discrimination. They'll tell you that that's what that was for. But it really never was in action, in actuary steps, it never was applied that way, because from its very inception, affirmative action included various immigrants, illegal immigrants and all. It included them. It also included the pale-skinned females. So it was watered down. It was sabotaged. And while it was being sabotaged, the condition overall, collectively, of African Americans in many sectors and in many communities across the country, you know, right-wing people, they love to talk about Chicago. They love that. They love talking about gangster town Chicago. And Chicago's always been a gangster town, okay? Since and a little bit, even before the days of Al Capone, always has been. I mean, a lot of cops there are corrupt. A lot of cops there, they commit murders, and then they'll write it up as it was a gang killing or something like that. It was a mob killing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So with they'll use Chicago to score points. You know, blacks killing blacks. They'll use that. And that's some of the right wing thinking. Okay, they will use that in a negative way to support their position, to support their points of view. But here's the thing: if you sabotage the programs that were intended to help those suppressed black communities, you know, a few nights ago, looking at the Quincy Jones documentary, and about how it was. He came from Chicago, was born in Chicago, and how difficult it was for his family, and how he had hungry days when he was hungry, didn't have any food, and his mother had a little mental condition also. And then he talked about how his father took him and his brother, and they got on a Trailways bus, and they had a one-way ticket to Seattle, Washington. And that was the beginning of a new life for Quincy Jones. But the reason why I bring that up is because Quincy talked about the poverty. He talked about hunger. And this is something that blacks were suffering a long time ago. I mean, we're talking about in the 40s and 50s in Chicago, Illinois. They were suffering that way. And when you have conditions like that, it will breed gangs. It will breed killing. It will breed these things. These things come about. But in the 1960s, the war on poverty, Lyndon B. Johnson's program, social programs and all, it was supposed to have brought a form of restitution, a form to correct the ugly ills that hundreds of years of slavery followed by Jim Crow and discrimination had brought upon African Americans in this country. But it was sabotaged. I say this again, it was sabotaged. And that's my key point. It was sabotaged by them piling on, them being the investor class. And this is not just Democrats. It was the Republicans also. Democrats were the main drivers behind it, but you have Republicans who were right along with that. They were right there with them on these things. What they did, they brought in all of these illegal immigrants. This was at the lower level, the illegal immigrants. And then at the higher level, you had the immigrants who came in under the H-1B visa programs. Those are the ones who have technical skills to do things in the United States. And generally, they're paid a little less than American citizens who have those same skills. These people coming in on the H-1B visa, oftentimes they're paid a little bit less.
But hold on, I hold your thought right there. You mentioned skills. They don't have any skills. They come and they steal our skills.
Well,
some of them they learn as they're here, and then they take over. That's how they're doing in California. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true with some of them. That is true, because sometimes they'll come in if you're working in a technical company, Intel, Microsoft, or other companies. Sometimes when they come in, some of them they may have the education. They may have an advanced education. They may be coming from India or some other country, China, or some other country, and they may have an advanced education, but some of them don't have a practical knowledge in working in that job. So
no, they don't.
sometimes if you're in that position, that's not always the case though. Sometimes if you're in that position, you will train them in all of the inner workings of that job. Okay, so you're training them, and in some cases, they're going to replace you, and they're going to be paid less than you. So yes, some of them come over here and they don't know, at least they don't have the experience in how to work in that particular job. They may have, oftentimes they may have the education. Okay, so it goes both ways. You have those who are very much advanced, okay, when they come over here. Then you have others, they are a little bit raw. They're not so advanced, and there's going to be some OJT, some on the job training for some of them. And those companies, in in many cases, they're going to pay them less than they would pay, let's say, an engineer and who is an American citizen. They would pay them less. So you have those things that are happening. That's at the higher level. But at the lower level of where you have the unskilled or low skilled people at, those blacks and Hispanics also, Hispanic Americans, they were pushed out of a lot of jobs, out of construction jobs, because the construction contractor knew that they could earn a lot more money. They can make the profits could be far greater by hiring illegal immigrants to serve in that job. So what they would do, they would hire the illegal immigrants in those positions as workers on construction sites, as workers at, for example, in Texas, you have a company, load trailer. Twice they were invaded by ICE, and ICE came in, immigration came in, arrested well over 100 people. And the first time was like in 2014. And well, load trailer told someone, one of the managers told someone, hey, look, we'll just pay the fine, and we'll hire them back again. So they paid $500,000 fine. Okay, and then 4 years later, 2018, ICE raided them again. They arrest 159 people working there illegally. All right. So
I want to tie it back into Ginsburg and tie it back into the Supreme Court, because just like T. West said, we have cheap labor through illegal immigration, rulings and judges, local, state, and federal. For those who just chimed in, you're watching Shirley's World. Thank you for coming in. Thank you guys for sharing. Let's get those likes up. I know that you're out there. Super chatters, thank you for coming in. I'm very grateful for you guys asking the question, because we are breaking down this ruling. How does it affect Black people? T is sharing with you the illegal immigration, the cheap labor, the non-skillful and skillful illegals and immigrants that come over here. And I say illegal because immigrants who come here on the legal manner, coming here through their visas and saying that they're bringing something to make America great, which they don't in some sense for me, and what I've seen them do in the Black community, they hire illegals. They don't want to hire Black people in California. They don't want to hire the African American who has laid down the foundation in this country. Now, let me make it clear. All kin folks are not skin folks. All the Black people in this country who say they are Black are not Black. Now, what do you mean, Shirley? Let me tell you what I mean. A lot of these Black people, many of you may be even watching, are African. Many of you guys are third and two and three and four generation back to an immigrant culture of people. It may be Cuba, it may be Africa, it may be Guadalajara, it may be, again, the dark-skinned melanin person, maybe from the Belize, Jamaica. You may have that in your DNA, your diaphragm of what you become. But the ones that are here as children of the DOS, the descendants of slaves, the Black Cabinet commissioned people of slaves, those are the children that died, bred, and built America. Those are the people who basically set the precedence of respect for the dark melon people in America. Those are the people, that generation, that culture of people. And if you've done your homework and you've done the difference of understanding DNA and genealogy, you will learn that your DNA is one aspect of it, but your genealogy is another. So we're talking about the genealogy connection to the foundation of making America. Through that duration of time, we have had laws and judges who have changed the fate of Black people. Some for the good, some for the bad. Lyndon B. Johnson didn't work in our best interest. He continued to want to divide us and conquer us. He blocked the Black man from being able to be with his woman after getting incarcerated. He blocked the Black church from being able to have these meetings. You Black people, Black people. And what you white people watching, you Black people, tell me why you don't go to church no more. Some of y'all wasn't even raised in church. And I'm going to tell you why you wasn't raised in church. That's because of Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson stopped that united front we used to have when we went to church. That's what we talked at. That's what we did our 411. We locked the doors. Nobody had no cell phones and cameras. Nobody out there was videotaping and running back to Master George with data. They might have had little 8-track and tape recorders. But in the most case, we were still trustworthy of each other. So Lyndon B. Johnson realized that, and he put things to instill a division, and he intervened with those Christians and said, I tell you what, I'll let you be tax exempt, which means you can keep all your money, you Jesus people, but you're not going to be able to talk about politics or policies in the church. These are divisive plots that presidents have done in the past, including Ronald Reagan, while allowing a mass movement of chain migration. See, they come into the Black community. Let me pull you up on some 411. And that's why T brought up illegal immigration. Excuse me. The illegal immigrants build chains in the community. They bring their cousin in. They bring their uncle in. See the chains being built? They bring their cousin, their sister. They have 5, 6, 7 kids. That's one chain. Next one. Their sister comes. She brings her husband in. He brings his brother in. And so on and so forth. So you have chains of migration that come here legally and illegally, building walls so that when you go in certain communities like the Black community, what do you see? I'm going to tell you what you see. You see illegals and immigrants giving more rights and positioning to us. They're giving more rights and positioning, I'm going to fix my camera, position and rights to us. They're taking them away from us, and they're using our community. And the reason why they use our community is because we're cheap labor to get into. So fast forward, the chain migration that has commenced of illegals and immigrants have now said, look, we don't need you Black people. We can hire our own people, and we want to hire more illegals because they're cheap labor. We'll pay them under the table. What's wrong with that, Shirley? Everybody got a little cheap under the table. I'm going to tell you what's wrong with that. What's wrong with that is what it's doing in our country. What it's doing in our country, it is dividing us, and it's also empowering more people. T, tell me what's your thought on that?
Well, that is the case. You do have, unfortunately, you do have some individuals and organizations that their objective is to bring greater division. They profit from that division. They profit from that schism. Now, one other point that you brought up, that you mentioned about judges, let me just say this real quick here. The range of judges are determined by members of Congress. It is Congress who establishes the laws, the legislative law that governs how judges are to rule in various cases, be it misdemeanors, be it felonies, murder, whatever. It is the legislature, the state legislatures, and then also at the national level, Congress, the House and the Senate. They are the ones who write these laws that indicate what level judges can go. What is the scope that judges can go? Okay, if it's first-degree murder, what are the scope? What's the low range sentencing and what's the high range for sentencing? If it's second-degree murder, if it's manslaughter, what are the ranges for all of these things? So what you saw when Bill Clinton was president, along with the help of members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and along with the help of also lots of people in Black communities who were under the threat of, at that time, of gang shootings in, for example, South Central Los Angeles. You had the Crips, the Bloods. You had lots of shooting in those communities. So you had Mary Jane. Mary Jane went up there to the members of Congress. What the hell are you going to do about this? I cannot go out and sit in my yard without bang, 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 bang. Okay, so the Congressional Black Caucus, some of them, well, what are we going to do about it? So some members of Congress came up with 3 strikes and you're out. All right, but remember at that same time, what you had going on also in the country, in California at that time, you had a huge influx of illegal immigrants coming into South Central Los Angeles.
Yes, yes.
And they were competing for resources. And Blacks were already having a difficult time with limited resources anyway. Now, on top of that, you throw gasoline on top of that with the movement of all of these millions and millions of illegal immigrants coming in at that time, mostly and primarily from Mexico. Okay, so you created a much worse situation. So what are we going to do about these Black folks who are, okay, well, lock them up. 3 strikes and they're out. Lock them up. And if they don't want to go to jail, shoot them, kill them. Okay, so you had lots of that happening at that time. And that was a part of the sabotage that I mentioned earlier, Shirley, of how they sabotage, how ACLU was like a Jekyll and a Hyde. You know, you got the good and you got the evil. You got the good things that they would do to advance certain sectors of African Americans. Then you have the bad things that would set far more African Americans back, because ACLU swallowed this whole illegal immigration hook, line, and sinker. Those lawyers are pushing and promoting, and they get a lot of money. They're paid well. I mean, they get George Soros money. They get money from other wealthy contributors also. They're paid for this. Just like you had those lawyers up at that when Christine Ford was testifying at that Brett Kavanaugh situation. The lawyer said, "Oh, we're doing this pro bono. She doesn't have to pay us anything. We're doing this pro bono." And they're, you know, of course they were lying. They're not doing it for free. Somebody is paying them. And what they do, you have George Soros and other money coming in from contributors who are paying these attorneys, these ACLU attorneys. They're paying these people, but they have rarely went to bat for African Americans like they are going to bat so strongly for these illegal immigrants.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, when you come out and these lawyers start talking, well, we're going to represent them and they don't have to pay anything. We're going to go down to the court. We're going to speak for them. They don't have to pay anything. They don't have to worry about that. We're also demanding that the U.S. government give these people reparations for the small amount of time that they were incarcerated by ICE in these immigration facilities. Give them reparations. But these same attorneys, they have never, ever said, give to the African Americans restitution.
Nope.
For the fact that you sabotage affirmative action, that you sabotage that social program, welfare program that came under Lyndon B. Johnson.
Right.
You sabotage that in order to push black males out.
Right.
Okay. And to turn black females and black males more against each other. Okay. To make the government the sugar daddy, while the black male is like, well, I can't compete with the damn government. They have unlimited money. Okay. I can't compete. So what does a black male do? A lot of them, they ran on about their business. Okay, they moved on out. Okay, and that was dividing the core, and the core is the family, dividing the family. Where there is no strong core, no strong family.
Now clarify that, the strong black family, the black nation. So what you're telling us is that here we have a situation where they're strengthening the immigrants and illegal family, and they're dividing the black family. Is that correct?
It was sabotage.
Right. That's the sabotage movement. That's sabotage.
That's what I indicated. It was sabotage. That's what it was. In 1965, 67, you had the Civil Rights Bill. And right in line with that, you had the Immigration Naturalization Bill also. The Immigration Naturalization Act. You had that. And then the Immigration Nationalization Act, that was pushing what? It was pushing for what was not in the 14th Amendment, which was to facilitate, and it was not there, and it still isn't there. It was to facilitate what later became known as anchor babies. Okay? And then later they raised the age, they went on up to, well, if you as long as you're not over 18 years of age, you can benefit under DACA. Okay? So they extended all this, and there's nothing in the Constitution to support DACA. That's something that the Obama administration did as an executive order, executive memo, one or the other, to try to put a little temporary fix on what Congress did not do and would not do. And I'm talking about Congress. I'm talking about both the conservatives and the liberals, both the Republicans and the Democrats. They would not do it. They did not do it. And even right now, the Republican Party in Congress is still dragging their feet with some of the policies related to Trump as relates to illegal immigration. So it's not just the libtards or the liberals or the Democrats that we need to be pointing the finger at. We also need to be pointing the finger at those Republican congressmen and women who have been dragging their feet, and also some of them who were complicit and have been complicit in this whole sabotage business that has adversely harmed and hurt collectively overall African Americans in this country for and to the benefit of illegal immigrants who have entered
hold on.
in the tens of millions.
But this is why I'm different with you. You said that the elected officials need to realize that they're hurting black people. Hell, black people don't realize that it's hurting black people. That's the problem.
That's why you
got listen. You got people like D.L. Hughley, who has a huger platform than what me and you have, saying, and then you have people like Jimmy Kimmel. What about their babies? I can't help the fact they don't know how to keep their legs closed, and they keep having all these people. They keep having all their children, and then they want government to pay for them. That's an irresponsible act of contribution of having children. I have 3 children. I'm not looking for the government to pay for my 3 sons. They're grown now, but I never said, hey, okay, I'm going to totally depend on the government and never try to excel from where I was or where I'm at to get to the next level. You've got celebrities who are white and black, and you've got black constituents and people. Like many of y'all watching this right now, you don't agree with me and T. You think that conservatives are a bunch of cuckoos for Cocoa Pops. You think we're stupid. You think that, you guys ain't nothing but wearing them red hats and all you are is mad and he's a racist. You don't even care. You are a racist because you don't care about your own people. That's what you are. You're ignorant because you don't understand that these people are dividing us. Many of you guys in our chat room talking right now, thank you so much out there. Light Sun's out there talking about Christy Ford has a future plans to pursue her sexual misconduct. We talked about that on the last show. If you haven't watched it, it's on T. West's channel. Make sure you go to Afro Synergy. She's done. She doesn't want to be ostracized up and down the street. She's going to go back in the hole to what she came out of. And if she's smart, she'll stay in that damn hole. Al is out there talking about slavery. This is another form of slavery. It's just cheap labor. But we think of slavery. Slavery is about utilizing a human being for a use of commodity for free. That's what slavery is when it comes to people. Slavery is a form of using a human being for commodity, for building your own wealth and preservation for your country, or even within your home. How many of you guys have heard about people having slaves in their house today? There's still people having slaves in their house today. They get these foreigners here, they don't speak any English, and they threaten them. If you leave this house and report us, you're going to lose all the benefits that we're doing. So they trust in them right now. And that you really realize that is what's happening. Someone said earlier in the thread, I don't know if it was Calvin. I'm looking up and down the thread. Thank you, still come on and say, thank you, Doug, for moderating. I love my Doug. And the information man says, interesting. Look, these people right now are in America getting so much money and benefits immigrants. I'm going to pivot to money real quick. Well, a lot of y'all don't know about this money. Y'all don't know about this money. Thank God for Ray Alexander. God bless him. He reached out to me, and we were talking, and we started talking about how the Hispanic community, I'm going to put this link in so you guys can see it, received $125 billion to expand and grow the Latino people. I bet y'all didn't know that. They are giving, since 2015, this wasn't under Trump, by the way. This was through Wells Fargo, a private sector and other banks who want to expand, build, and develop the Hispanic community in America. Expand, build, and develop them. They provided them $125 billion that they've allocated. Now somebody says, well, they didn't actually give it, they're proposing. That was in 2015. Well, it's 2018. I just found another article saying that they're committed to giving them that money. They're going to give them $125 billion to keep birthing people that they can't even afford to keep, but they can now. That's why they have new cars and new houses and you don't. That's why they can hire each other and they won't hire you. Their management team, their supervisors who run the infrastructures of your water bill, your electric bill, they're giving them hookups. You don't get them hookups. You get behind there, they're talking Spanish for life, and you're trying to get about your business and they can't talk in English, and still you can't get your daily life moving forward because you're disrupted by immigrants and illegal immigrants. Immigrants, not only Hispanic, now the money aspect, yes, but the Chinese immigrants who have money from China who are doing wrong trade services and disruption to America. I want you to realize that. Thank you, Harry. Our super chatters are coming in. I thank you so much for coming in. Every dollar count. We have Politicon October 20th and 21st. That's a huge event that's costing us thousands of dollars, and we need more money to get it done. We're going to also be at the Taste of Soul October 20th. So for those who can afford Politicon, check us out at the Taste of Soul LA. We will have a booth, but we will be having these round table Let's Talk chats in our booth about what we're talking about, people who are unskilled workers that come in. But I don't want to pivot away too much from Kavanaugh. I want you to understand your local, state, and federal rulings of judges, legislation that are rules that the people have allowed to stay affect your life. If you had an understanding of potential law that could change this country, a new cabinet, a new Black agenda that basically talks about American Black. I ain't talking about African Black. That's another channel. I'm talking about you, a person that's born in this country who call yourself Black. Remember, I told you all skin folks aren't kin folks, but you are Black because you say you're Black and you like to hang out with the brown people. So there you go. You're an American. Why aren't you identifying what T was sharing with you earlier? Why aren't you identifying that there are legislation and laws in place that have been disrupted, twisted by the ACLU? And that's why Ginsburg is speaking out, because she was a civil rights attorney for women. Civil rights attorney for women. Now, what does that mean? Are all women the same? No, they're not. Because these women don't like men. These women call themselves gods. These women basically don't believe in men and women working together. They're constantly angry. They act like they got some kind of demon screaming, showing their titties, screaming down the street. What the hell is wrong with them women? And then you guys support these kind of people. Come on, Black people. Come on now. Come on now. Stop following these buffoonery and showmanship people. What does Supreme Court justice mean for you? I'm gonna tell you what it means. It means that the lower level from state to federal state to local needs to be corrected. The 3 strikes you're out law. The judges that vote against our people and incarcerate us, but not the Latinos. Tell me, we need to talk about the rulings of allowing public funds. You guys have accounts with Wells Fargo, but you helping Mexican families move forward. Now, you do your homework. You look up $125 billion in 2015 allocated towards Mexicans. What the hell was you Black people at? Oh, that's right. You would have to have that Negro in office who did nothing for you. The one that says he's for Black people, but he helped immigrants, illegal immigrants, and gays with the rainbow coalition flag flown all through the White House. Now, you tell me, How did that help your plight and your money and your aspiration for entrepreneurship? How does that help you benefit as a capitalist, LLCS corporation? How did that create a cash flow in your life? It didn't do a damn thing. I'm gonna tell you it didn't. But look at these Mexicans. All you Mexican people, since you're Mexican, take advantage of the damn Wells Fargo. I ain't mad at you, shit. Use your card. That's a card for the Mexicans. If you look up the $125 billion that have been allocated to them and not to us, we got a problem. Someone says, well, they did allocate some money to us. They ain't give us no $125 billion, and they ain't promoting it all on social media underground through NARA, which is the National Association of Realtors for Hispanics. Yes, they are working with Hispanic realtors to speak Spanish so that they don't even want to hire black realtors. So the realtors like myself, they don't want to work with me. The Asians don't want to work with me. You've got these people that I want to work with my own people. That is not making America great again, but you don't like this hat and you don't like the notions. Black people died in this country. This country was built on the blood of Black Americans. The children of the indigenous slave tribe, which our brother just shared with you. Camilla's out there. It says public funds. Hey, honey, how you doing? Camilla Ayers says public funds are going towards illegal immigrants, and DACA, I believe, are about to end. DACA is about to end. But again, a problem I got, and I'm trying to tell, I'm telling with T, y'all talking about government, y'all support these people. You put up with their antics. You let them get in line and talk Spanish in line forever. I call them out. I said, look, I ain't got all the time. Can you give me somebody that speaks English while they keep talking? They get offended. Oh, you being offended. You need to understand. We're Mexicans. We make a difference. And we're Latin. We're Chinese. No, we're Americans. We're African Americans who built this country, the blood in this country. And many of you guys don't own your rights of who you are and what you got to bring to this table. And if you ain't got, excuse me, if you ain't got nothing to bring, think about your dead grandma. I hope the dead keeps you awake at night. I hope the dead keeps you alert in the day to say, what are you doing to represent the name? If your last name is William, Johnson, Brown, Thomas, Smith, Harris, I want that dead family member to wake you up and say, you have a responsibility to help the next generation. Kavanaugh, elected as Supreme Court, will help the next Black generation, but the current generation, those of us who are among this living, need to be more responsible and understanding that local governors, local judges need to be chosen in a better manner. T, I want to talk a little bit about the local judges. And why do Black people, tell me, T, Wes, why is it the fact? By the way, I got Afro Synergy News here with us. He's going to share his mindset. Both of us will be able to meet in person October 20th. Please share this video. Get the likes up. Many of you guys are watching. We've got good people. We're getting up to 100 people watching. Let's start talking about the benefits of Black people under good rulings. But tell me, why the correct judge, why does that make a difference for Black people? Because these judges are not ruling for us. They're ruling for illegal immigrants. Tell me why Black people should be more conscious on the local level of judges.
Well, you have with judges rule on many things. Judges, as you know, rule on in the circuit courts, in the municipal courts. They rule on laws that relates to driving on the highway. You know, driving drunk or other things, speeding. They rule on various things, and in many of these municipalities, for example, you see it and you saw it in the findings with Ferguson, for example. You saw how the court system and the police, the law enforcement system, they were working together to milk that Black population there specifically. They were arresting people just so that they could fulfill the budgetary budget area. And this was found, and this was the conclusion of the judicial department from the feds with the Justice Department. When they went in and investigated, this is what they found with Ferguson. So, and Ferguson is not just one single municipality that's practicing that out there. There are lots of them in small towns and even in some of the largest cities. You have that where judges, where the police, they are targeting, they are Blacks for ticketing, for citations, and then the judges, they will render a bigger and a greater fine towards these blacks who are entrapped within that system. And it is to bring in money for the court system to subsidize what they're not getting from taxes. Okay, and people are already taxed pretty damn hard in many of those municipalities and locations anyway, but they come at them that way, and they're targeting black communities. Now, that's at the municipal court level. But then you have the higher courts. You have judges that handle other things, other crimes. Could be murder, could be burglary, could be other things. They handle those things. And then it could be drugs, the 3 strikes and you're out, you know, cocaine versus crack cocaine. You know, pale-skinned men, they had lots of cocaine, but you could have just a small, minute amount of crack, and then you could be put away in prison for life. Whereas that pale-skinned guy, he could walk free, and he had a hell of a lot more cocaine than you did crack. And it is from cocaine that you produce crack. It's one of the main ingredients to produce crack. So you saw how the laws and all were set up to target African Americans. Now, that was by the legislature. And the judges, you have that other layer right there with the judges where maybe sometimes they may have some leeway, but they don't take that leeway, some of the judges. They'll go for the extreme, and they'll throw the book at you. They'll put you on time, okay? And then with that 3 strikes and you're out, what they did, what the legislature did in Congress, they eliminated a lot of the leeway that some of these judges had. So you saw members of Congress. These are people that you vote for, okay? And you vote for lots of the judges also. But you vote for these members of Congress who establishes the laws and guidelines that these judges are going to be looking at when they start reviewing cases and sentencing people. So you have to, we have to look at it more from a holistic standpoint with regards to what are the functions of judges. Okay, lots of blacks don't know that. They haven't been taught these things. You have to teach them these things, and social media is one area where you can do that at. And that's why, you know, your program of what you have, that's a good thing, because it's undoing a lot of the bad teachings that a lot of African Americans have been getting. You know, when you mentioned D.H. Hughley earlier, well, D.H. Hughley is nothing compared to 1,000 that are saying what you are saying or what I'm saying. Okay, so and that's where the real power is. The power is really in social media. We are the new thing. We are the thing, and mainstream media, they know that, and they fear that. I mean, they fear when Donald Trump tweets. They're mainstream media. They hate that because it's so much power through social media. He can reach millions of people immediately, outside of, if CNN don't want to air it, if MSNBC or Fox News, if they don't want to air what a person says, the president says, well, hey, guess what? He's got Twitter out there. You can use Twitter to do that. So now, but coming right back to this thing about judges, and that's a part of it. And you first, when judges are on the ballot, you first need to be able to get the profile of that judge. Learn what that judge is about. Learn some things about that judge. If he's a sitting judge and he's been on the court, on the bench for a while, then he's got a record. You can study that. You can look at that. You know, take out of your busy day and take a look at it. You can study that. But anyway, and I'm not going to belabor that point right there, but you can do that. Other thing also, with when we started talking about change, positive change with African Americans, I have come to the point where you've got to acknowledge that everything we've tried, our ancestors have tried, all of it has had some success, but has also had a hell of a lot of sabotage. And when something is sabotaged, that means the group as a whole did not move forward. They maybe took a half a step backwards. And that is what I have seen collectively with African American communities across this country, is that they have taken a half a step backwards. And when you have that, you're going to have it again with whatever program we're talking about, whatever program that we're talking about, the solutions that we're bringing at Politicon on the 20th and 21st of this month in Los Angeles. Whatever those solutions are, we have to look at the fact that you're going to have sabotage. And at some point, now I said that to build up to this, at some point, you have got to say, just like you heard a few weeks ago about illegal immigrants who have been incarcerated by immigration officials, about them getting restitution and reparations for them and their illegal immigrant children being temporarily locked up. At some point, you have to demand restitution. You have to demand a payment. You have to demand reparations. And that has to be done through those persons, those men and women who you vote for every 2 years, it's a Senate position, every 6 years, who you vote for. You got to do it through Congress. Right now, there is a House Bill 40, and every African American, and even if you're not African American, but you support what I'm saying, all of you should be aware that since the late 1980s, there's been a House Bill, it's House Bill 40 in Congress, and the Congressional Black Caucus, they're just sitting on it, okay? And this is beyond Republican and Democrat. I mean, we're asking Tim Scott, who's a black Republican senator out of South Carolina. We're asking Cory Booker, okay, Kamala Harris. We're demanding that they, all of them, look at that House bill, even though these other two that I mentioned, Kamala Harris is in the Senate and Cory Booker is in the Senate. Well, you could have also a Senate bill. So force them, since they're the only two black Congress people in the Senate, well, in the Senate on the Democrat side, force them to create and to bring forward a bill that is similar to HR 40, the bill that is in the House. Force them to do that, because I'll guarantee you, the reason you mentioned Wells Fargo Bank and the $120 or so billion that's being proposed that's related to Hispanics, and I think I'm assuming that you're talking about here in the United States, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so here in the United States. All right. Now, why is Wells Fargo doing that? Wells Fargo is doing that because Wells Fargo knows that the Hispanic population in the United States, they have the numbers. The numbers as in people, and by the sheer number of so many people, they're also going to have money. So numbers talk, money talks. Okay. So therefore, they'll push that. Now, I said that to say this. Just like pressure has been brought upon that institution, Wells Fargo, to do that, to have discussions about that, then we also must bring pressure upon our political leaders and even institutions, but let's start with the political leaders. For our political leaders, be they Republican or be they Democrats, to look at restitution. Because if we keep dabbling, talking, they're going to continue to sabotage. You need a payment. You need a buyout. You need something to get started, to really get started. African Americans never had anything to get started. Affirmative action was sabotaged from the get-go. It was totally sabotaged.
So hold your thought right there. So I want you to understand, I put on the link right now, when it says congress.gov. That is the bill that Teach West talked about, 40. It's now called Bill 115. You'll click the link and you'll be able to see, it gives you a breakdown of that bill. And in, let me make this clear, when you go to congress.gov, if you were to click that, you will find in congress.gov, look, if any of you guys can still watch and go there and listen to what I'm telling you, there's a tracker on the bottom of it. It says tracker, introduced, passed, House, passed, Senate, to the president and becomes law. What you have is these antiquated legislators. Listen to what I'm saying. Share this video. Get the likes up. Thank you so much for that. Please follow us on Urban Game Changers. And God bless the super chatters. Thank you, Ron, for your donation. And tell O'Shea I love him. O'Shea is our man out there. But listen, if we look at this bill, it's HR 40. Okay? And so I went ahead and I gave you a link so you can see that one. Study development of helping us get that money that we are looking for. Ain't nothing happening. You know why it's nothing happening? It's just at an introduction stage. It's just at an introduction stage because these people who talk about it aren't pushing it through. The drivers are the passengers in our life. The drivers are how can you drive and sit in the back seat at the same damn time? How can you be Maxine Waters, Camilla Harris, Corey wanna-be a Booker, who calls himself Spartacus, you know, all black and Republicans, all them black people. How can you say to us, we want you to drive and make things happen when you sitting in the back seat? That's as dumb as Obama saying, pick up your pants and march. He's gonna tell us to go march. What the hell is marching going to do when you are the president of the United States and you could have done some executive order? This could have been an executive order for President Obama. Do you realize this bill could have been an executive order?
Get out of bed. Put on your slippers. That's what okay, like, oh yeah. Yeah, it was like black folks, y'all sitting around, y'all loafing, you're in bed. Put on your slippers, get out and march.
March for what? Where the hell are you going to march to? When you go to, also just one more thing, when you go to congress.gov, you'll see whatever the bill that you need to alert, and underneath it, it'll say, basically, get alerted. You can get alerted. You can click and it'll let you know if anything's being done. But don't worry, it's still in the introductory phases. It got reintroduced in 2018 in March. But it's been going on. Go ahead.
Did I tell you when it was actually penned?
Go ahead.
In the late 1980s by Congressman John Conyers of Michigan. It's been sitting out there for decades. Okay. All right. It's been sitting out there for decades. But it's a waste because African Americans, those listening, most of those listening right now, okay, they have never heard of it. Okay. So if you haven't heard of something, and in addition, if you've heard of it and you have not pushed it and promoted it and said to your congressmen and congresswomen, I want something and I demand that something be done with this. Now you have the 115th Congress. I think that's what you meant about the 115.
That's right. That's
okay. Now you had Sheila Jackson Lee who resubmitted it for the 115th Congress. Okay, but this doggone HR 40 has been sitting out there since the late 1980s. All right, now we have a responsibility. You're talking about the people in the back seat. Okay, if the voters are the ones in the back seat, that's you and me. We're out here. We have to push and we have to demand that Congress, members of Congress, not just black members of Congress. You got some other members of Congress who are not black, and some of them will actually go to bat for you more than many, if not all, of your congressional black caucus members. They will do that, but you have to put it on the table. You have to say, this is what we want. And in other words, you want something in exchange for what you're giving. If you're looking at the fact that in 2016, if the African-American vote for Donald Trump was around about 10%, and then if you're looking at the polls now that shows that the African-American support for Donald Trump has now risen to around about 30%, valuable. That's something that you have that you can trade for something. You can demand something in return for that. And you have to come together and you have to say, well, what the hell is it that we want collectively as a people? Okay? You don't want the same old things that you've been asking for since forever. Okay? You don't want affirmative action. That's not what you want. Affirmative action was a sabotage, and it will never be right because they will always sabotage it. But if Congress came out and said, now let me tell you this, there were brothers and lawyers who took reparations to the courts, and you know what the court did? The court said this is outside of our authority. This is what the U.S. court said. This is outside of our authority. You would have to take this to Congress and the president. They are the ones who have the power to deal with this. Okay, that's what HR 40 is all about. That's in the House. So now we have a responsibility for those of you who are listening right now, or you know somebody in South Carolina, and even if you're not in South Carolina, you can still call him. You got Tim Scott, black senator, Republican senator in South Carolina. Call him. Tell him that, hey, we're interested in getting a bill started in the Senate that is similar to HR 40 in the House. So we want a bill in the Senate. We want a bill moving in the House. We want both. That's political activism. That's political intelligence. That's using that to push that platform. You got to have a platform. Okay?
You got to have a platform. That's why we have Urban Game Changers. I created Urban Game Changers so that we can hold elected officials accountable as well as ourselves. Everyone still has their platform. T. West is very adamant about how he has always educated a lot of us. He breaks it down, people. I know many of you guys say, I don't need it broken down like that, but sometimes you do. You need to watch this video again, share this video. Let's get those thumbs up and keep sharing. Thank you guys so much for sharing and chiming in. Some of you guys aren't saying anything, and that's cool. You're just listening because that's how you grow. But I want you to realize that if we don't not only just stay woke, if we don't be more proactive, not reactive. The Black community is very reactive. We're like a shock factor. Screw the shock factor. Just like T. West said, we need laws enforced in place. In the meantime, you have private sectors like Wells Fargo, that some of you guys are Black and you have Wells Fargo account. They're taking some of the money that you have and they're giving $125 billion to the Hispanic community. Now, some people have said, but surely they've also allocated $60 billion to Black people. Well, who's Black? I told you all skin folks and kin folks, and once they start looking up, realizing you ain't immigrant Black, they can deny you. You know, they can deny you because you're not an immigrant Black. You're not Haitian or from Belize or Jamaica. You're not an immigrant. You're a Black American. You go back to the DOS Black. Sometimes they don't like DOS Black people. Hell, forget just Black people, but DOS Black people. But when you have private sectors building the wealth class and the infrastructure of protection for another culture of people, and you support that, something wrong with you. Something wrong with you, my people. That you sitting back talking about buffoonery and letting talk about Hispanics and talking about Africa and Africa. When you live in America, you live in this country. Now you see that the Supreme Court judge, Brett Kavanaugh, has been confirmed and sworn in today. Trump goes next. And what is Trump doing? He's on the campaign trail, helping to make America great again. So by what? November, we're going to have some changes going on, people. In November, this was awakening, okay? Thank God. Who just said awake? I forgot your name. You just posted in there. It was Grant. Grant says, stay woke. We need to stay woke and awake because we need to wake up to the fact that Kavanaugh commencement of confirmation says a lot in this country. The conservative mindset of not spending like some crazy person, opening up your door like some crazy person, letting all these illegals come in here like this crazy person means a lot. It means a lot because it's saying that we as Americans need to be responsible to America first. But on a local judge level, I want to help you out. So I'm going to put this link This is the link I want you to go to. Listen to me, pay attention. This could change your life or a family member's life. Make sure you share this video, post it on your social media platforms, because this video will have details and golden nuggets that can affect your community and your state. Urban Game Changers, our job, T. West is Arkansas. He knows about the rural community. He knows about the farmers and what's going on with the bad seeds. They're Black people who own land, who provide produce for us in America. We don't expose and support that base. Why not? Urban Game Changers is going to do that. There's many of us who are in urban communities like Los Angeles who are dealing with the illegal immigrants and the court system. No one's talking about that. You got Black people saying that they represent Black people but work for white companies. We are Black-owned, operated, and executed. And that's what you need to let everybody know about Urban Game Changers. We believe in educating people, not just Black people, but people, for accountability of who you are, for yourself, and for others around you. This link I just gave you, it's called uscourts.gov, hashtag local court local. That means that local leaders, what you can point in who your judges are. And you click on that link, and then you can go to the the location, type in district, bankruptcy, probate, defender, or appeal. Okay. Then you can type in your zip code. It'll tell you the court. On the top, it has the judges. You see where it says judges? It talks about the Fed, the milestone, the vacancies. It talks about the authorization of the judgeship. It talks about what judgeships are, private fund seminars, disclosures. Okay, see? It's underground private fund seminar disclosure. That's on that link when you go to judge and judgeships. Well, what the hell is that? Resource overviewing private funding seminars, disclosure systems, providing information on how the system works for judges, educational programs provided and the public provides and the public. Okay, the Q&A on that, reporting private funds. Here's a PDF giving you a breakdown of that. Y'all ain't paying attention. Anybody out there listening? You want me to start talking about Cardi B? I bet your ass be watching now. Keep talking on that stuff. This ain't no Cardi B show. This is a show talking about your life. This is how you can get your cousin Pookie out of jail. Pookie in fucking jail, and you ain't even trying to help Pookie get out of jail. This is how you get Pookie out of jail. You start studying laws and legislators and judges who did not operate through the law or by the law, but through a liberal progressive ideology. Expanding the rights and wealth from the private sector given to immigrants, illegal immigrants, and specifically the Hispanic community. Well, they marginalized, and now Wells Fargo says in 2017, oh, but you guys, Shirley, you didn't see that part where the article said they gave $60 billion to African Americans. Anybody on this call, anybody on this video, anybody in the broadcast or radio, whoever watches this, have you seen any $60 billion go to African American people? Do we feel the change in the community? Meaning that when you feel it, you see Black businesses start to flourish. No, but what we do is see a suppression of Black and the infrastructure of Black Americans, and we see Chinese soul food and Mexican and Asian soul food taking over our infrastructure of businesses, Korean hair salons that we buy from, Black people happy to get a discount and letting Black women get beat up and spit on and by Koreans. Y'all start allowing that. It started back in LA. What was that, back in the 80s when that Black girl called that Asian woman a bitch? And she walked away. The girl walked away, was leaving the store, and the woman shot her in the back. That's before Trayvon Martin. That's before Sandra Bland. That was before that, before Obama. Now, you would think Obama would have done executive orders to Bill 40. He didn't. You think Obama do an executive order for the protection of the Black people against police brutality, but he didn't. He didn't do any of those executive orders, but you guys are swearing by this is your man. I love him, his pretty wife, and his pretty kids. But in the meantime, your cousin Pookie, your son, your uncle, your dad, or whoever has been incarcerated and taken down. Real Money says, no, we didn't see any of that money. He says, you're right. No, we didn't see that money. Way too real. Vote right now. And don't vote left. You don't want to vote left. You need to understand we do need new governors. We do need new legislators. But y'all know in certain towns like California, they got the machines. Now, what's the machine, Shirley? That means that they're going to turn on all this illegal actions of all these illegals to start to vote that don't even exist? How many Rodriguez, Ramirez that we see out there, Lopez, that'll be voting that don't exist, that are in homes? I told you one of the places I was staying in, I moved, but where I had 3 Mexicans registered to vote out of my house. And I told them about that. They didn't stop it. They didn't stop it. So there's a corrupt level of government on local. And if we don't stop the corruption on the local as African American, not Trump, not the legislators, as Black people, if we don't start doing something, we're on demise. T, what do you think about what I just shared?
Well, Shirley, yeah, I basically agree that we definitely must get on the ball. But the big part, like I said, is earlier, the big part is you're going to have some form of restitution, because you cannot compete with these millions of illegal immigrants, and some of them are now legal now. They've been made citizens in the United States. You can't compete with that, plain and simple. You don't have the numbers, and your birth rate is now very, very low now.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be high. So you're not going to compete with that. So you got to look at something else. You've got to look at a final solution to that. And that final solution goes right back to what I often said, with Congress. It's a question of, okay, if you want illegal immigration to continue, then African Americans, they must demand reparations right now, not tomorrow, but you got to start demanding it right now. You've got to look at that, and that should be a big part of our platform as African Americans here in this country. Once you have something like that, then you have the finances to really springboard off into other things in this country. You have that. Now, I know African Americans have a lots of money, but they don't have a lots of money compared to other groups. Oh no, I mean, among pale-skinned Americans, the ratio is still 18-1. $18 with the pale-skinned Americans, and $1 for African Americans.
Wow,
I mean, that's a huge difference. Okay,
that's a huge difference, T. I mean, yeah. It's dollars and cents, but when you start adding all that up, that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Oh yeah. So you got to have that. That's why I say again, in the Senate, tell your senator, whether they are Black, white, or other, tell them, demand, we want legislation in the Senate for reparations. All right. Now, some people will say, "Oh man, T. West, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. They'll never do that, T. West. They'll never do that." Well, most of you who are saying that, you also said Trump will never be president of the United States.
Okay, come on now.
And Trump came out and asked you all. He asked you all, African Americans, what do you have to lose? In other words, hey, come on, let's talk, let's deal, and let's not forget that prior to Trump running for president, Trump was really quite popular among African Americans, among most African Americans. He was really quite popular. All right. And I mean, even at the time, she was like 5 or 6. But I was watching with my granddaughter and my grandson. We were watching Little Rascals. And my granddaughter, who was 5 or 6 at the time, she said, "Grandpa, that's Donald Trump." Okay, I rewound the video. There was Donald Trump, a cameo appearance in Little Rascals. But my point of saying that is that 5, 6-year-old knew Donald Trump. This is when Donald Trump even started running for president.
Right.
She knew who he was. So what am I saying? I'm saying that Donald Trump, hate him or love him, Donald Trump is a cultural phenomenon. Okay? If you go back and you start looking at pictures dating back decades and all, you're going to see Donald Trump in pictures with a whole range of African Americans on the
but black people don't like Trump, right? They hate Trump. Because Trump is a racist. You know, Omarosa is on this campaign. She's stubborn harder for hatred in this country than she was for making it great again. This is the hatred campaign movement that she has about this man who paid for her wedding, about a man who employed her for many, many years. He's a racist, right? How does that? But this is my question. If he's a racist or not, how does that further apply for making us better? What can we do to not focus that kind of energy? That exerts a lot of energy. I always talk about energy distribution, and you guys need to be conscious of putting that type of energy out there does not better your life. I like him or hate him, it doesn't better your life. Yeah. If you want to move forward, you're going to be an entrepreneurial. This is the right president for you. If you're going to live and depend on governmental program, that's why you hate him. You hate him because he's making you get off your ass and take them slippers off and put some good shoes on. You got to put your good shoes on now. You got to put your good shoes on now. Go.
Right, and what you talking about, Shirley? You talking about conditioning. You talking about social engineering. You talking about brainwashing. That's what they do. Mainstream media, they're good at it. What they'll do, they'll put something on television. Like right now on television, you have Fakad Zakiri. He's out there right now. He's saying that, with this whole Supreme Court thing, this is the wrong direction for democracy. Okay, wrong direction for. So that's conditioning. Okay, it has nothing to do with being in the wrong direction for democracy. But what you will see, because they saw Zakari say that on CNN, you will have African Americans who will come out tonight and tomorrow. They will say, "Oh, that was a stab against democracy." They're like little parrots, okay? They're like the parrot. If you say the sky is blue, the parrot says the sky is blue.
Well, let me say this. I don't understand why these black people do that too. They know that they're being buffoon. It comes out the little parrot. We don't want Trump. Impeach him.
But honestly, Shirley, some of them actually don't even know it, because it's been done to them for so long that they don't even realize it anymore. They just say it. I mean, that's hearing right there. So when you have that level of social engineering that's happening, the people, when reality hits them in the head, you see things happen like happened after the November elections in 2016. Some people kind of went crazy. What do you mean Hillary didn't win?
Right.
What do you mean she didn't win? Oh my God! I mean, they were crying like somebody had stuck them with a knife.
I really believe there's some kind of evil spirit in those people. Now, this is where I start talking about spirituality. I think there's demons. No, I do. I think that there's demons crying out of these people. Something's not right. All the elevators don't fit right. There's something ain't right with them elevators. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Those who are believers know what I'm talking about. Come on.
But that's
amen in the house. Amen in the house. You know.
That's the conditioning. That's the conditioning. That's mainstream media. When they turn that TV on, be it Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they are being programmed. Okay, and some of them will sit up there and they will look at that mess. Hour after hour. They're being programmed. It's just like cocaine. They got to get their hit, okay? Or they can't function quite well, okay? Because they've been fed that garbage for so long. It's the same thing with food. There's certain types of food that you know ain't no damn good for you. You know that. Okay, but you've been conditioned, you like it so much, and you eat it. And it's hard to kick. It's hard to stop. And so you have lots of African Americans, unfortunately, who have been mesmerized and dragged into that programming. But thank God there is social media now, and people are attacking social media. They're attacking mainstream media. They're attacking social media. They call social media fake news after Donald Trump won. But the fake news was mainstream media, because they had all told you that Donald Trump there's no way that he's going to beat Hillary. Hillary's got this in the bag. 97% chance Hillary Clinton is going to win. All right. So
let me add this. I'm adding on to what you're saying. Hillary Clinton didn't win, and we know Trump has won. We know that President Trump is making America great again. He's also making the world responsible again. The world has to be responsible for what they've been doing as far as our relationship with other countries and free trade and democracy. Free trade of businesses that we're growing in other countries that can make us great in Detroit and Atlanta and Chicago and California, in Alabama and Mississippi, in Louisiana and in Texas. We need to have businesses to grow America, but we can't do that because we've allowed free trade and labor and laws to be beneficial to other countries.
Well, Shirley, what happened, Shirley, was this. In the starting in the late 1970s, definitely the early 1980s, and Reagan was president. You had Carter, then you had Reagan, okay, and then you had Bush, and then you had Clinton. All right. But what they were doing at that time, they had started selling America out. They were using the wealth of America to fund and establish manufacturing powers in other countries.
Say that again. Hold on. Say it. I want you to break that down one more time. I'm going to cut to you off in between because I think some of y'all don't get this. We talk about Obama, Trump, Clinton, Ronald Reagan. He gave a list of presidents that have an agenda that have empowered other countries to become great versus us. Now, T, why would they do that? Explain why did they take our labor away from us for other people? Because we know it's about the money. It comes back to the money, but I know you're going to go there, but go ahead.
Yeah. And it wasn't so much, I mentioned the administrations, but it wasn't so much the presidents per se, because these presidents, they have people within their administrations and outside of their administrations who are orchestrating much of this. And these are usually business tycoons and titans. Okay, they pushing more value to themselves as corporate owners, as corporate CEOs, and as corporate shareholders. We call that those, and they are the investor class. They wanted more and greater value, which meant that they had at that time, they had blacks who were inching up economically. Blacks had started in the 1970s. Blacks had started inching up economically. It didn't last too long because it was sabotage. They had started inching up. But then what the U.S. government did, along with the corporations, along with Wall Street, you had T. Boone Pickens, you had what's the other guy's name? T. Boone Pickens was one of them, and then you had
Texas, right?
Carl Icahn.
Icahn, yeah, out of Texas.
Yes, you had Carl Icahn. So what they did, you had the hostile takeover of these corporations and all. So you had all that was going on. These were Wall Street tycoons, and they were turning some people into instant millionaires. And then what they would do, they would take these companies, these American companies, Detroit auto manufacturing companies, parts manufacturers and all. They would take these companies after, because these are public companies. And then once they're public companies, you can have a hostile takeover. They take over these companies. And then what they would do, they would sell those companies, and then they would move those companies over into Mexico. And then from Mexico, they eventually moved them over into Taiwan and into Japan, and then later from Taiwan into Japan, into China. So they moved these, and also some of them were moved into some European countries also. So what was happening, they were sabotaging what at that time should have been an African-American, a black renaissance in America at that time, but they were sabotaging, and they was taking America's wealth, just as they were taking America's wealth during and after World War II, with the $50 billion, which would amount to well over 162. Well, it's 162. Well, no, it's more than that. It would amount to in today's dollars. But back then, it was $50 billion that the United States government took, and they bailed out and they rebuilt Western Europe after Western Europe had been bombed into oblivion. They did that. And even then, that was money that was coming out of the great wealth that your ancestors, my ancestors, had built and had created in America. But they were taking it and they were pushing it back over into Europe. And then come forward, 1980s. And after the 1980s even, you had these trade agreements and all where they were trading America's wealth out. America's wealth was going overseas. If your parents was working at a Ford's plant in Pontiac, Michigan, that Ford plant maybe closed down, and that Ford company of that plant moved down to Mexico. Your parents were no longer employed right there anymore in that auto industry, but those were good jobs, paid for your education, paid for your medicine, your health care. It paid for all those things, but it was a sellout, and it was Wall Street that was doing that. So when Trump was running, Trump came out and Trump said, well, look, yeah, I know Carl Icahn, he's a good friend of mine. Yeah, T-Boone Pickens, yep, yep, they did that way back then. But I'm going to bring those guys in so that they can help us reverse what they did back then, which was not good for us back then, which they created that situation, and then Congress created the laws that facilitated the fact that my ties, the Trump ties that you see, well, hey, those are made in China. Okay, all right.
So hold your thought right there. My question to you and all you black people and white people listening, why the hell was the normal folks in these rulings and judges and laws when all this took place? Where were the smart people who said, wait a minute, do you realize what this is going to do to us as the people? What was going on with Maxine Waters and Sheila Jackson back then? Because God knows they've been in office too long, because they basically, we don't have any rules that basically have limited them in their time of office. There's no term limits. I want to know, what were those black people doing back then? I'm going to tell you what they were doing. They were getting paid under the table to do nothing for your people. They were getting paid under the table to make themselves multi-millionaires. Maxine Waters has a $5 million house. That doesn't bother some of you guys. You said, I impeach Trump. She's got a $5 million house. Do you have a $5 million house? Did your grandmama, your great-grandmama had that kind of money? In the meantime, the generation before us were able to benefit for themselves, but they didn't even think about the generation down the road. Where were black people at T-West at that point? Why blacks step back and laid on their asses doing that?
Yeah, now to put in a little point for Maxine. Now Maxine also has a husband, and that husband, I understand. I understand that he has or had a lot of money. Okay, so but anyway, but what?
Oh no! I'm from California. Help me out.
Go ahead.
Miss Waters' husband, grandson, and her are scoundrels. She would position her family. There was a story done through Claw, which is an investigation company. You guys look this up. One Bank America, which is a black bank in Los Angeles, there was $10 million allocated to that bank. Later on, she said in a letter she was going to take that money and give it to the immigrants. And that got doused down. But that got convinced, and someone sent me that letter, and she says, oh, that didn't come from our office. But that money has been sitting in that One America Bank, that One Bank America in LA on Crenshaw. It's a black bank. That money is allocated towards immigrants and not black people. And her husband and her grandson sit on the board. She didn't marry nobody with no money. She pimped the American people. Look, these people get an injection of money every new year. You realize that. The grants, the proposals.
Is that One America Bank or One United?
No, One America, One Bank. No, it's One Bank. Let me look up the correct name. I'll tell you. It's on Crenshaw. If you look up One Bank on Crenshaw, whichever that is, that's that bank. You look it up. That was the money where her and her son, I'm going to give you a link when you talk, that was allocated money to the bank to supposed to go to the people, but her grandson or her son commenced over it. So I'm going back to the question you're saying. She married a wealthy man. Wealthy or not, they're con artists. They're con artists that have been in office for too long, and they don't understand business. Look, America is one big infrastructure of a nonprofit and a for-profit situation. We're a capitalist institution. We are a big business of making money. And you have people who don't even know how to make money, but to pimp and align themselves with money. So every year, congressional leaders, listen to me, get a new injection of money. But in that injection process, they didn't earn it like me and you. They know it's coming, so they'll squander, waste, and not push bills that we talked about earlier. Go ahead, T. Go ahead. Debbie B says I'm absolutely right. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much.
So what you have some. Where were some African Americans at that time while all this was going on a few decades ago? Well, some of them were sidelined. Some of them did not have a clue about really what was going on. Okay, because you also had some of them, they're getting money from some of those same companies that are closing down factories. Okay, so if they're being paid, generally they're getting these good campaign donations from some of these companies. Let's say that company is about to close this factory, and if you're not getting a significant amount of pushback from the workers and the people in the community, well, that politician, black or whatever color they are, that politician is most likely going to take that campaign money and just hush his or her mouth and let that business go as it did go, which was, oh, okay, they're going out, they're going overseas. Now, you know, when George H. Bush ran against Bill Clinton, you had Ross Perot in the race. And Ross Perot, that little man from Texas, you know, he talked about that gushing sound that you hear. What is that gushing sound? Shh. What is that gushing sound? Oh, those are your factories. Those are your jobs going out of this country. Now, that little man was running against Bush and Bill Clinton, but he actually enabled Clinton to win and to defeat George H. Bush. Otherwise, George H. Bush would have won that race had Ross Perot not gotten in the race. But Ross Perot was right about that. He was right about all of those jobs going out of this country. And okay, Bill Clinton came along later, and Bill Clinton, he helped assist with the furthering of that whole so-called globalism agenda, where you had NAFTA and you had other trade with Europe and all. You had all of that, and much of that was beneficial, and that's what Trump is talking about, and Trump is right. Most of that was far more beneficial to those other countries than it was to the United States. United States was pushing up and those other countries. Now there was one main point, and I don't think I said much about it. I think you said earlier that in this program about Brett Kavanaugh. Well, what does that have to do with African Americans, or how will that hurt or help African Americans with Brett Kavanaugh now being on the Supreme Court? Well, here's my answer. It's a very simple answer. Brett Kavanaugh is only one of 9 justices on the Supreme Court. It will not hurt or help African Americans usually one iota. Now, if it comes down to voting on some of the things that that's being appealed, that the Trump administration is appealing from the lower court up to the Supreme Court. For example, I think the Trump administration, I think they are appealing something related to DACA. I think they want that to go to the Supreme Court. Now, if that's the case, then yeah, a Brett Kavanaugh, sure, you would want him on that Supreme Court, thinking that, well, you know, maybe he would be a little bit more favorable to the Trump administration relative to the DACA situation, or even relative to some of the other programs that relates to illegal immigration in this country that may be in the appeal stage of going up to the U.S. Supreme Court. So you have that piece right there. Now, if you rule in the favor of the Trump administration, then that's beneficial to African Americans. And it's beneficial to African Americans, Shirley, as you know, for the obvious reasons, because it puts a stopgap. It puts a
stipend for the illegal immigrants.
For the illegal immigration,
right?
Yeah,
but stop. So even if you stop the illegals, where we're failing, it's good, but it's not good on my point, because if we don't have any legislation on the table, if we don't have any bills, if we're not willing to discuss things in our people's best interests and not beat each other up and not act emotionally, we're going to continue to be in the same rut we are and just getting the crumbs from the table of every administration, including this one. So I do believe with urban game changers, there's many of us like me and T West and somebody out there saying, how's Phil? Phil's doing great. Phil from the Advice Show, Phil Scott will be at Politicon October 20th and 21st. We want to see you there. Look for the Urban Game Changer logo. And also we'll see Afro Synergy, which is T West right now. Make sure you guys get the likes up. Share this video if you like it. We got 15 more minutes and we're going to end this show. But I thank you for watching. I thank T West and Afro Synergy News for coming in. We're chiming in the fact that now Brett Kavanaugh has been confirmed. We told you Brett Kavanaugh was going to be confirmed. We also told you that he would be sworn in. And doggone it, we didn't know they were doing this one quickly. He's doing this one quickly. But if we were going to make changes and find solutions, I've given you some links. Go to congress.gov. I also gave you a link regarding, I'm going to put this link up again. You need to know who your local legislators are. And you go to uscourts.gov and you type in on uscourts.gov. Go ahead and type in who are the legislators that run your system, who are the judges, and look at the records of those judges. And then if you really want to do some good homework, you good people out there who really want to know the real truth, I want you to start looking at black cases, legal cases of black people who are losing in the court systems on a state level. And I would ask you to find out who the hell them judges that voted against our people. Because there's a movement of Latinas and illegal immigrants, children, anchor baby children, who are trying to run this country. And they are running for office in a rapid mode. Right now, everybody's talking about Feinstein and getting her out of office. But who do we have next? We have Kevin DeLeon, who said in California that he wants to make sure he gets Feinstein out so he can promote half of his illegal family members, which he has said they are. Which to me, they ought to have ICE police go knock on those doors and take him out. Why y'all protecting this man, Kevin DeLeon's family, as an elected officials in California, elected official, but his family are not here legally? Look, there's a lot of corruption going on in America. A lot of corruption going on in America. There's a lot of difference going on. I want you to stop focusing on the buffoonery of what is going on as far as people's relationships and who they choose to be with, who has sex with who, what's going on in Africa. I want to know, why can't you just focus on African Americans? Why can't you take advantage of capitalism, understanding the laws of LLCs and S corporations and other people's money? Understand that Ruth Ginsburg is an ACL attorney who is being pushed by liberal progressive women who want to keep black people on the back porch. That's what they want you to be. While you expand the birth rate of the immigrants in America, but African Americans are targeted through Planned Parenthood. I need you to wake up. I need you to wake up and pay attention to what's going on. Deb's out there, always have been. Thank you so much, Deborah. It says always been corruption. Well, maybe not for everyone, Deborah. I will say that we've lived in the last 40 to 50 years because we have no term limits. So anytime you have corruption commits with people who didn't start off that way. Maxine Waters didn't start off corrupt. There were things they said she did good in the past, but we can't remember that. We're living in the Maxine Waters of today. We're living with the Camilla Harris and all these other people. They want the corruption to commence because they can get their earmarks and their checks under the table. They want that to continue on the wealth class because they can hire poor immigrants. They can hire immigrants who don't want to get paid the full value and they don't want to protect the infrastructure or security or health and sanitation for us. They can go ahead and skim on the laws and you don't know why you're getting sick after you ate at that restaurant. In California, some people are eating dog and they don't even know it. That's the word on the street. That's the word on the street, allegedly, okay? Allegedly. This is what the word is on the street, not what I'm saying. All the things I say is allegedly, so let's clarify that. But what I am telling you, the truth of the matter is that many of you are not conscious of all these patterns of decades of corruption, and we're complacent, and we take it, and we breathe it in. No longer should we do that. We should no longer do that. We should look at Brett Kavanaugh's swearing in of a new conservative mindset versus a liberal free for all, have sex with everybody that move around the street, fall, and call yourself a transsexual, bisexual. I don't care who you sleep with. I really don't ask to know all that. And that should not be an issue for America to be discussing. What we need to discuss is the homelessness and mass incarceration. What we need to discuss is the plight to destroy the Black family in the Black community with Black people. But we don't do that. Because if we do that, we're racist. And if we do that, we're angry at each other. And I don't think that is what is going to move us forward. Unless you're speaking on behalf of Black Americans to move forward as a Black public figure like D.L. or all these other ones who are fighting for illegal immigrants, what good is it? What good is it if we can't talk and find out some type of legislation to work in our best interest? So yes, the Trump administration is doing fabulous for America, and Blacks are benefiting that. Blacks are waking up, they're wearing their hats, they're speaking good for the Trump administration. But Blacks are still also caught up in the buffoonery of who sleeps with who and who got to be on TV and who threw a shoe. And we got to come back to have a balance of all of that. You can deal in all of that, but you got to deal with the reality of what we bring to this channel. T, you got a couple more minutes. Can you just kind of close us out? Talk a little bit about what you're going to think about talking about at Politicon and why we should be having conversations with each other first.
Well, you're definitely going to hear some of what you heard tonight at Politicon and some at Politicon. So I suggest to all the listeners, as I've said, talk to your Congress people. Tell them, Senate, in the Senate and in the House, tell them, demand that you want a similar reparations bill in the Senate. Okay, just like you have it over there in the House. And with the House, push them to move that forward. Okay, you need to do that because there's no telling how this illegal immigration situation is going to turn out, because a lot of Republicans, very often, they have dragged their feet with this. Okay, you got to look at the reality of it. And if those numbers continue to grow, and they are growing, okay, in spite of the Trump administration cracking down on them, those numbers continue to grow, that's going to hurt your communities more and more and more. So you've got to do something. So at some point you need to just say, okay, I'm selling, I'm buying out. I want my buyout. I want my money. We want our money, and so that we can do what we need to do. Okay, so definitely look at that. Think about that. And overall, it's a good thing that Brett Kavanaugh is now on the Supreme Court. And the biggest reason why I say that is because I did not like it was far worse what some people were trying to do in latching on to that Me Too nonsense. And I didn't like that it was dividing the sexes. It was dividing men and women more against each other. And we as African Americans, many of us, we saw that happen to us, okay, decades ago especially, where the government played a big role in that. And now we're seeing the same thing, but it's happening to pale-skinned men. I mean, Brett Kavanaugh, I mean, he experienced a little bit of what of what Clarence Thomas experienced. In fact, it was a little bit worse. Okay, it was a little bit worse. And people will try to use sex to do that. And I did a program where I indicated that in the Bible there was the story of Joseph. Joseph was down in Egypt, and he had befriended the jailer, the owner of the jail. Well, let me see. The owner, a powerful man there, had become good friends with Joseph. Joseph could tell the meanings of visions and dreams, And this man, this powerful man, his wife wanted to have a little sex fling with Joseph. And while Joseph was in the house doing some work in the house, she made that known. And Joseph said, "Oh no, no, I can't do that. Your husband, I work for him. He likes me, and on and on and on." But the woman, she's like, "Oh no, brother, I want some of you. I gotta have some of you, brother." So Joseph said, "Oh no." So Joseph took off. Okay, he ran. Off he went. But while he was trying to run off, the woman, she was already calculating. She was already thinking, just like Christine Ford and her handlers. They were already calculating and thinking ahead. And she grabbed his coat. And then, but because Joseph had scorned her, Joseph had said, "No, I don't want, woman, you're a good looking woman. You smell good and you're wealthy. But I'm not, no, I can't touch this." So he took off. She took his coat off, grabbed his coat. And then when her husband got home, she was angry and all, said, "Joseph tried to rape me." So that was the first beginning of the Me Too. Okay. Joseph tried to rape me, but she lied. Okay. She said, "Here's the proof. Here's his coat." Now, okay. Now, any only a total fool will leave his coat in the house of a woman, of a man that he's working for. Okay. But she played him for a fool. All right. Just like Christine Ford and those other two women, Swetnick and Ramirez, tried to play everybody for a fool, and along with some others out there trying to say that over 30 years ago, this man did this man did that. He wasn't even a man. He was a teenager at the time. Okay. And somebody said to me, and I know I'm a little long-winded here, but I'm gonna shut it down. Someone said to me, she said, "T. West, that's just like my 5-year-old in my arms, and he touches the breast of this other woman, and this other woman comes along 20, 30 years later and say, 'Hey, T. West, when he was 5 years old, he molested me. He touched my breast.'" Okay. All right. So it's stupid stuff like that. And that's what that was. And it's very good that most of the people saw through all of that mess. And it was in many ways, it was similar to the same situation that happened to Bill Cosby. The same situation. I mean, they moved heaven and hell to get that man. They changed the damn laws to get that man. Just like they changed the damn laws to try to get Michael Jackson. Okay. So so we have to look at things. We have to always be thinking and always think critically. Okay, be a critical thinker. Don't just be like a parrot. Mainstream media says something, and then you go out and you regurgitate it. You echoing what the mainstream media is saying. So don't be gullible like that. Black people as a whole, we all must wisen up.
We must wise up. I totally agree with you, T. And we need to be more conscious of what is going on. And I thank you so much for that. If you guys have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. Thank God for the super chatters that came in. Thank you, Ron, and the one who came in earlier. I thank you guys so much. The super chatters, they make a difference. We need to continue to raise money. We will be at Politicon. As you can see, me and T. West can go on and on and on, and we can only have so much time online, but in person, we will be at Politicon all day on the 20th, all day on the 21st of October, and we want you there. Make sure you get your tickets and go to Politicon. I put the link down below where you can meet me. You can also, Phil will be there. Phil Scott, our wonderful, one area said the controversy. He's not married to a Black woman. Does that really make a difference? Why don't you ask him that in person? Why don't you ask Mr. Advice Show yourself into person? Willie Larson will be there from the Willie Larson Show. And many executive directors for Urban Game Changer has a big announcement for African-American people where we will be celebrating 400 years of Blacks in America. In 1619, the War Dutchman brought 20 Blacks to America. And those Blacks became the commodity that built this country on the backs of Black people. Let's have conversations about that. Solutions. I always like to leave you with some solutions. I've given you a couple of links to discuss the Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters has a slew of ethic violations. I put that in the link so that you can do your own homework. It was not CLAW, it's called CREW. CREW is an investigation of ethics in the government. They go after elected officials that consist of congressional leaders to judge other congressional leaders. So it's like the enemy of your enemy and your frenemy is watching your back. That does not help this. It should be an outside third-party entity that governs over the ethics of congressional leaders. But you can see in that link, what you'll find out is that we have corrupt people who govern over other corrupt people. So, and what you have a perpetual roller coaster up and down, and a filtration of new money coming into this country from the people to legislators who filtrate their own pockets. Her grandson name is Makala, I put his name in there, Moore. That is her grandson, who is now in Washington, D.C. at the state capitol, petitioning and learning all the sneaky secrets of what Washington's doing. And a lot of you Trumpicans don't realize Maxine Waters' grandson is out in D.C. filtrating, acting like he's one of you when he's not. He's out there trying to keep us divided and fighting for illegal immigrants. I also put in a link, congress.gov. T. West was talking about the Bill 40. Bill 40 was supposed to talk about what we're supposed to get, what Black people are supposed to get, but we're not getting it. But what we can do is look at other existing bills that are on the table. When you go to congress.gov and you learn the bill that you want to know about, if you read on the bottom, it'll say introduced, it'll say pass the House, pass the Senate, signed by the president, and become law. So it's like conjunction junction. What's your function for those who are old school? Remember that one? Well, what that does is it tells you the process of where you are in a bill that came from your legislator. A lot of legislators put bills on the table, they get introduced, they don't even get acted upon. They don't petition that bill, they just put a lot of bills out hoping that they stick against the wall. We need to identify, and that's what Urban Game Changers is starting to do. We're building a relationship with lawmakers, we're building a relationship with lobbyists and legislation. And when we get that going, we're going to call back out to you to start calling and asking them to push that train through for what we need. We need a piece of America carved out for us, people, meaning the Black people, Black American people, the children of the indigenous slave tribe, the DOS, the descendants of slaves. Because if you are an immigrant Black, you can play the immigrant card. And you know, there's all kind of money on the table about that. I also put in the link where I showed you that we are seeing that banks like Wells Fargo is giving $125 billion towards Mexicans. And the Mexicans are working with other Mexicans, which are illegal immigrants. The Hispanic community is giving $125 billion. Now, Shirley, Wells Fargo said they give us 60. Anybody see that 60 billion even rise up? Do you feel the rise up in us? No, I see it in California. I see these Mexicans driving around with new cars, new houses. I see them continue to have more children. I keep saying, well, how are they getting this fluctuation of money? Well, if you have a Wells Fargo account, that money is going towards Mexicans. Hispanic communities are flourishing. You need to look up that article. Another thing that I told you to look up and pay attention is Politicon. I posted, it is important that you show up and support. It may cost you a little bit of money, but it's well worth it because you're going to be able to have all day with me and all day with T. West at both platforms. The Taste of Soul is free in Los Angeles. That's on the 20th. And we're going to be going back and forth on the 20th. The 21st, we will be staying at the LA Convention Center. It's in Los Angeles, California. Make sure you go on the links and find out, and you'll see the logo. You'll see this logo there, and it makes a world of difference. And the last thing, local, state, and federal, holding them accountability starts with you. This last link I'm putting in right now, that link is the uscourts.gov, judges-judging or judges. Please, judges, please make sure that you go to that link. Learn who your legal judges are. Why did your Pookie get put in jail? Why is Ray Ray getting put in jail? Why is there a movement of them trying to make sure that they keep incarcerating more Blacks in Chicago and Atlanta? It's those judges that you vote into office. And you know why they're doing that. You know why they're doing that, because the privatized prisons that were commenced under Clinton, under the Hillary and the Clintons, where they have black people who did privatized prisons and they use you as commodity. And this is how they continue to use you as commodity, by having judges on a local level that you're not conscious and aware. Look, my people, black, white, Italian, Jewish, whoever's watching me in T West right now, you need to wake up. You need to wake up to government that has failed the people, because this fulfillment of personal gains has to stop from legislators in this country. They are becoming millionaires off of us every year. We inject them by January with new bills, a new proposal, skimming and earmarking the government. But we as constituents go, we know they corrupt. We all know that. And you sit back and do nothing, but you got homeless people on the street. You got American people. You might have worked with that man and say, ain't that Mr. Brown? Man, I used to work with him, but you're too scared to say something, because you know Mr. Brown, I know you, he's going to ask you for money. You can see he's destitute, but you can't help Mr. Brown because your ass is next on the list for the destitution. You're next on the list to become homeless, and you not even do nothing. You don't join organizations like us. You rather promote the other ones that have pundits and commentators who look good and smell good, who ain't upset and mad like we are, providing you true law and legislation. You continue to talk about slavery. Well, slavery is now a different form called illegal immigration, because its basic slavery was cheap labor. That's what slavery entered to. Cheap labor, no cost for that labor, but people to be used for that labor. You as a constituent needs to make a difference in America and tell these people, go fix your country from what you came from. Go fix your homeland like I'm fixing my homeland. You got problems in your house, lock the door and sit Ray down and kick his ass. Kick little Shaniqua's ass a little bit. Sit back and tell them, you need to get your act together. We're going to have a little talk right here. You get them kids under control and realize that's an extension of your bloodline. And then you get them on board and start talking and sharing these videos and having conversations at home. And let us fix us first. Instead of looking for white people to fix us, we need to fix ourselves. But we need to realize we are Americans in this country. And that other countries, if Africa was so great, they would come here. T. West had Dr. Shamor, I can't think of her name, I hate to say it wrong, but he had a female doctor on his show. Please go to the advice show, not T. West, Phil from the advice show had this lady on there. She talks about the corruption of Kenya. 30% income tax, 30% in Kenya. Everybody in Kenya, the legislators get big checks. The women are disrespected, big time. And now you got these other people on other platforms, some of we all should go to Africa. Okay, if you're gonna take 30% to feed all the people in Africa, you go right ahead. You go right ahead with that corrupt governmental system. You think we're bad, then you go there. You go there. But if you say, you know what, that's a lot for me to gather in my, fix your home first. Because everybody in your home coming in, when you leave your doors unlocked, tell them they're all welcome. While you walk away, they come in and snatch up civil rights. They come in and snatch up your communities. They come in and snatch up your businesses. They come up and they snatch up a position. They snatch up your children. And next thing you look up, now you're related to them. These are things that you're not even conscious of. You're not even conscious of, because you done opened up your door to everyone and move forward. T. West, what else you want to say, my brother?
Well, that's it, Shirley. Thank you for the invite on your program tonight. So look forward to seeing you and interacting at Politicon.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for watching. Again, continue to move forward. Think outside the box. Be who you are. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Please, please, please. I know I paused for a second. We kind of waited. Please, please, please share this video. Click the like button. And also join urbangamechangers.com. Make a donation through urbangamechangers.com. We need money to continue this type of conversation. We can't continue these kinds of conversations if you're not there, if you're not giving. But we have to fix us first. Let's lock the doors, talk to each other, then enter out in the world and make a difference. Thank you, T. West. God bless you, and God bless you guys, and good night.
Thank you.